TransLink has been hemorrhaging money for a month. Today, it announced drastic cuts to help stop the bleeding. Among them, cutting SkyTrain service by 15 to 20%, suspending 18 bus routes and canceling dozens more next month, and slashing senior executive salaries by 10%. The Transit Authority says it's doing everything it can to reduce the impact on riders.
There's a number of things that they look at, and at the end of it, these routes and service reductions have been put in place, have been deemed the most appropriate.
Ridership is down by more than 80%, but fewer people are allowed onto buses because of physical distancing rules. So the union representing bus drivers says there's still significant demand for bus service.
We think this is a really reckless and irresponsible move, and that senior levels of government need to sort this out and keep our service on the road as of yesterday.
TransLink says it's losing $75 million every month, and that's why these cuts are necessary. But the Hospital Employees Union says about 25,000 of its members rely on transit to get to work every day. So it's calling on the government to step in and fix the problem.
We can't sustain an 83% reduction in ridership. That's just not going to work. So we need a national response to our transit challenges.
The group Abundant Transit BC started a petition calling for emergency government funding to help keep TransLink afloat during the pandemic so that people like Jason Adel, who doesn't have a car, can still get around.
It'll be predominantly for getting groceries, picking up some medications that I can't get delivered to my place of residence, and also just running some other essential errands.
And so we really feel like our job now is to speak up and make sure they understand that transit is essential. People depend on it to get to food, to get work.
TransLink says it wants to hire its employees back as soon as possible, but there's no way to know when that will happen. And because TransLink is a public body, it doesn't qualify for a government wage subsidy. Jesse Johnston, CBC News, Vancouver.
Time now to go to Justin McElroy, who's been following the impacts to the transit system. Justin, what areas are going to be hit the hardest here?
It's important to keep in mind, Anita, that all areas of Metro Vancouver will be hit by this. We're talking a lot about cancellations today, but TransLink does say that there will be deep cuts for many of the bus routes regardless. But if you look specifically at canceled, suspended routes starting in the beginning of next month, there's about 60 of them or so, and the vast majority are going to be in areas that aren't Vancouver proper. In fact, if you're in Vancouver or Burnaby or the Tri-Cities, the vast majority of your routes will still be operational. But if you look at other places, particularly Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, that's the area that's going to be hit hardest. They have 10 routes right now. 7 of them are going to be suspended as a result of this. So other than the absolute necessity over there, for the most part, people will be stuck. But again, it varies a lot depending where you live.
And what's TransLink's strategy here?
Well, what they're trying to do, and they don't really have any great strategy or options, I should say, at this point, given how much they have to cut. But what they're attempting is to make the burden on commuters as little as possible and trying to cut as much as they can without impacting as many people. So here's another chart. It shows the top third used bus routes in the system, the middle third used bus routes in the system, and the bottom third. And you can see by a vast majority, all of the routes, virtually all of the routes that TransLink is looking at suspending are in that bottom third. There's only 2 routes that are regularly or more commonly used that they're going to be suspending here. So again, reason why Maple Ridge, reason why Southwest Metro Vancouver is being affected more is because there's less buses there and less people take the bus there. So it's extremely difficult if you live in those areas. It's extremely difficult if you're a bus driver and are losing your job here. But that's the strategy that, at least this point, TransLink is trying to make it so that they can cut these bus services and to get their costs down while not impacting the majority of people that use transit.
Justin McElroy, thank you.